County, to all you lovely ladies and gentlemen out there, a hearty and healthy Irish hello. You're listening to the Celtic Coach radio show where science, spirituality and self-discovery meet. I'm going to add into there where science, spirituality, self-discovery and love meet, because love is going to meet with a lot of our listeners today. So welcome everyone. Boy, we have a great show, and I'm not even going to introduce this guy because let me check to make sure he's on the line. Guy, are you there?
No, I'm not there.
All right, now that's perfect. He's not here because he's not listening. I thought instead of reading the biographical impressive stuff that Guy has done over the years and you can read it on the back of his book, I thought, dear listeners, I would share with you today what the impact of his book Relationship Magic has had on me. So a little different than most people would do it, but I'm Irish and Guy's Irish, so we get to do things a little differently around here. Oh, by the way, Guy, my girlfriend Shelleys says, Dermot, would you tell Guy thank you? And I said, well, what should I thank him for? And she says, for putting words to this.
Huh.
And I thought, boy, this means...
That's really nice. And, please, if you as my friend, you say hello. I wonder if you can be a little bit louder, Dermot?
Absolutely. How's that?
That's a little better. I'm just I've got my headphone cranked to the max and my own voice is too thunderous.
All right, no problem, Guy. I'll make sure to speak a little bit louder. On the dial, I'm coming in loud and clear here, but I can crank it just a little bit.
Oh, well, that's better.
Yeah, all right, no problem. Yeah, so she wanted me to pass that along to you, Guy.
Well, you give her my affection, please.
I will. All right, dear listeners. I read Guy's book. Now, to me, I've read books in the past, and they have all the tips, and they have the processes, and they have the tools, and they have the secrets, 12 steps to happiness in your relationship. And what I found was that Guy's book is not about that. To me, Guy's book is like gravity. There was more, gravity works whether, you're Irish, English, Scottish, wherever you are, whoever you are. It works regardless. It's a principle. And to me, Guy's book was kind of like that. It was more principles where when I read them, I really connected to the words. And some of the things that I've started to notice in my own relationship, I'm starting to realize that I can either grow in my relationship, I can grow the love in my relationship, or I can grow the differences. And so I'm deciding now to grow more of that love. I've also noticed in my relationship that I'm starting to have a lot more understanding for my partner instead of pointing the finger at her, which I can easily do when I'm peed off. I'm learning that she's not the problem. That the pointer, me, there's a part of me that is pointing, and it's the hurt part of me. Now, I used to think there was a lot of things wrong with me, but I'm starting to get a clue, so that's pretty good. I think the biggest thing in my relationship that I've got from this book, and it sounds kind of silly, but it's actually quite meaningful for me, I'm allowing myself to have longer hugs with my girlfriend. Now, I'm the type in my relationship, I hug the girlfriend, and it's a 3-second rule. I hug it. It's the A-frame hug, looks like an A. And then okay, we're good. And what I noticed, I used to think, okay, she's hugging me too long. But what I'm realizing was that part of me that feels fear is saying, okay, 3 seconds is enough. And so I've started just allowing myself more to feel that. And boy, it's having longer hugs, and as a result, I feel closer to my lady. So thanks for all of that, Guy, and welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Dermot. I'm glad to be with you, and I'm glad for the report. That's a very worthwhile set of results.
It is.
And of course, you understand that The only thing the book does is say, hey, Dermot, take a look at this, take a look at that, and here's the reason why, and here's the possibility if you do. The rest is up to you as the reader, as is true of anything, so that my books, and my new book in particular, is really just a way of bringing things that are already in all of us into a way we can begin to see and relate to those principles on a moment-to-moment, daily basis with our partner or whoever that may be.
Now, Guy, I wanna, because there's so much in the book, and I have pages of notes, and I really did my best to cut it down to about 15 questions, which I know we're not going to get to. And I talked with Guy before the show, and in November, we're going to have Guy, please God, everything works out, we're going to have Guy come back and talk a little bit more. So we'll do our best to get through as much as we can today. But our intention is to have Guy come back. Guy, I want to give our listeners as much value as we can from our conversation today. So I'd like to set the stage for that, Guy, with two questions that maybe you could kind of kick us off.
All right.
What is relationship magic, and what do you want what will our listeners walk away with by the end of our conversation today? What would you like them to walk away with?
Well, I'll answer the second part first. No one listening to us is going to walk away with anything that they don't feel is valuable. And that the idea of relationship magic, and ideally what everyone who will be listening to us today will be able to take away with them, is that our relationships the way they are now are incredibly tenuous. Given any particular unwanted moment, a stray, unkind look, a word that brings up something from the tar pits in us, any one of 100,000 different little instances can instantaneously reduce our relationship to a squabble. We all know that. Raising our voices, criticizing, finding fault, trying to control. These are just some of the ways in which, when there is a problem between two people that ostensibly love each other, that in a heartbeat the love disappears. And this book, my new book, is a way in which a person can begin to understand that love never disappears, but that we are stolen in those moments from the part of us that understands that truth. And because we have lost sight of the fact that love cannot disappear, love never separates, love never fights, love never argues. That's not what love is, not what it does. That we can begin to understand these moments that have been separating points and turn them into points of integration. And so I called the book Relationship Magic, because inside of the book, the reader will find that within them, these principles already live. They've just been forgotten. They've just been brushed aside by culture, by conditioning, by a host of false beliefs. So that the reason it's magic is because we can suddenly start to do things that would have seemed unthinkable, impossible before. A man wanders into some fourth world, fifth world country where the indigenous people maybe never saw in their whole lives a flashlight. Man turns on a flashlight, and for an instant, he's almost a god. He's almost a god to them because he has a power they can't begin to comprehend. Well, we can have a certain kind of power once we understand our relationship with real love, and that is to dismiss these old patterns that repeat themselves every time a particular problem shows its face again. So that, in a manner of speaking, we learn how to turn on a light that changes not just what we see, but that changes us because of what we see in that same moment. So that's a kind of magic to be able to do in this world in moments where ordinarily we were reduced to a pain of some kind, to turn that into a power, to not just perfect our relationship, but perfect ourselves through that relationship as well.
Well, I think you've answered. Both questions, Guy. What's the best way? Are you hearing me a little bit better now, Guy?
As long as you're close to that mic, it's good.
Okay. What's the? I found sitting reading your book, Guy. I like to take notes, and I know there's many ways to read a book. How would you like people to read your book?
You know, when we run across new ideas, and just to be cautious and very clear, this new book isn't really filled with new ideas. What this book is, if it's anything at all, is a flashlight that shows us where we have always had, not just around us in true principles and ideas, but within us, the capacity to express them. So this book brings up in the reader, ideally, a series of reactions. Some, there's no question, a person go, what? That's impossible. No way. Some will say, oh my God, let me read that again, because it's something moved in my heart or my mind when I read it. And when we take the marriage of those two things, the incredulous, maybe actually angry or hot response, and then the wish to embrace it and know it more deeply, the task is to understand the following. And I'm going to say it as clearly as I can. Nothing that you or I, Dermot, or any of the readers will ever learn, not one thing we will ever discover in this life that is right, true, good, and beautiful, is not already a part of our consciousness. So that everything that we come across, every true idea, every beautiful strain of music, every special bit of light at the sunset or sunrise, all of those thoughts, all of those feelings, the moment itself is just awakening us to something that's already in our consciousness that we're just asleep to prior to that relationship, prior to that moment of revelation, which is what all relationships are. So that when an individual reads this book, they should understand that if they feel drawn to something, it's because something in them already recognizes the truth of it.
Mm.
And if something in us resists an idea, if we go back and read the book again, which is what I highly suggest a person read the whole book through and then make notes if you want to about things that troubled you or that stirred you. And then you go back and you, during the time it takes to read the book and put a few of the principles in practice, by the time you reread the sections that troubled you or stirred you, you will not be the same man or woman that you were when you first read them. And that in itself is an education that cannot be bought. It can't even be estimated, because it means that we are not this static creature living from static ideas about what it means to be loving, kind, and compassionate. We are a dynamic body of energy. We are a completely different order of being than we know presently. And this book is intended to help men and women not just discover how to turn what we call a mundane relationship into one that's authentically magical, refreshed all the time, but at the same time to discover that the reason that kind of relationship can be realized is because it was always a potential in our own consciousness to know that and to be changed by it.
Yeah, I like that, Guy. A potential in our own consciousness. Wow, what a beautiful way to say that. What do you think is needed, Guy, for a man or a woman in order to in order for change to occur in their relationship? What's needed from them?
Look, we all know those really incredible moments, those times when we are first drawn to somebody, and we share the first hearty laugh, the lengthy conversation where it seems that there's no end to how fascinating the other person is.
Yeah.
The first kiss, the first touch, the first intimate moment. All of those things are what makes love so endearing to us, because we are inextricably drawn to someone or something, and in that relationship that we're drawn to, as I've been saying, intimating, we are revealed to ourselves. The things that I know about myself now, I could never know in a million years if it weren't for my wife of nearly 40 years. There is absolutely no way, both for the light part of it and the dark part of it. But when love is involved, even what seems to be dark is merely if you will excuse the poetic metaphor, is just the dark before the dawn. And it's what makes the light that reveals it all the more precious, because one doesn't understand that one comes into these relationships, as we all do, loaded with limitations born of our past and being conditioned by moments we weren't able to understand. So we carry pain with us that we have no awareness of at all, and until and only as we're with someone long enough that we begin to see unfold in us when they don't do as we imagine they should keep doing, which is delighting us, then all of a sudden we're aware of these parts of ourselves, and without understanding how love works, our partner becomes the one who gets blamed for our pain.
Mm-hmm.
So this book helps the man or the woman, the couple, whatever they are, to begin to be able to use the moments in their relationship, both good and bad moments, as a point of reflection, to actually be able to recognize that, as an example, how many of us get disappointed with our husband or wife, with our partner? It can happen almost daily. They don't do what we expected them to do when they should have done it. They don't smile at us when we need a smile. We come home from work and we're dragging ourselves, and instead of saying, what can I get you, they say, you think you had a bad day, let me tell you about mine.
Yeah.
And in those moments
mm-hmm.
where suddenly we are inflamed, blaming or disappointed with our partner, we can begin to understand it is impossible to be disappointed with our partner, feel betrayed by them, unless going into that moment where suddenly we feel that negative state, we had an unsuspected expectation of them, a demand that comes with us through time, that no one ever hurt us again the way we were hurt before, a demand that someone console me even when I'm irritable and unconsolable. So we have these unseen expectations, Dermot. And when we walk into moments in relationships, these thoughts, these objects, these crystallized formations in our consciousness, they're suddenly stirred, which is what we call having someone push the button. And the minute the button gets pushed, we fail to recognize that there had to be a button, because now we're trying to change the person who pushed it instead of thanking them for showing us that we brought this limitation with us into the relationship, and now love is offering us a way to wake up and realize this thing needs to go. Not you need to change, I need to change.
Mm-hmm.
And when two people in a relationship begin to understand that the unwanted moments are actually a very special kind of conscious crucible in which the content of their own hearts and minds is momentarily revealed to them, then you have two people willing to let go of their insistence that the other person be and do what they're supposed to be and do. Then you have a chance to have a refreshment, to have a renewal, to have a new respect, and ultimately a deeper and deeper bond between two people, because each one understands that they are in the other's life to help perfect them, to help them grow, not to be the one who says, this is what perfection is, and you're missing the mark.
Right. And it's our job to point it out.
Yeah.
You were talking in the book, Guy, and you talked a little bit about it there. The finger and the button are separate, and it's our button. How can we be the problem when we're the one pointing it out? Is that what you're talking about here?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
When I'm busy, let's say that I am, blaming someone for my pain, I'm not the problem. You are. And the proof that you're the problem is how much pain I'm in.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But you see, the way a relationship develops in the truest sense of letting the love that brought you and your partner together begin to polish and remove and release us from these concealed pains, these concealed limitations, can only take place in the moment of them being revealed. So when I say and I point, you're the problem, the thing that never occurs to me, and that must, is that man or woman in my life, in that same moment, they're in as much pain as I am. One of the things the book asks the reader to ask him or herself is, in a moment of conflict, why in God's name is my pain more important than my partner's? If I really love somebody, Dermot, you answer it. If I really love somebody, do I want to punish them?
Well, I'll be the advocate for the reader, for the listener, Guy.
Sure.
The answer, no. But in that moment, Guy, when thunder and lightning is coming out of my eyes, and my hair's not standing up because I'm bald, but the hair on my back is standing up. I don't see anything but, lashing out. I just don't see any door to even walk through in terms of love, Guy. So, what do you do in that moment?
I don't see what I'm doing to my partner because I am blind to myself.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Now, you said, what can the reader expect? And I said, only what the reader wants to learn is true.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to have another day, another dark relationship moment where the only thing that's resolved is we reach some kind of a standoff, some compromise, where whoever makes the compromise just boils in resentment that will resurface again in another argument? Or do I actually want to go through what love is asking me to do through that relationship? Love is saying, in a moment where two people are in a disagreement, Guy, Dermot, do you want to go on reliving this nature that does not know how to heal but can only blame someone else for its pain? Or do you want to know enough about this nature that you finally understand under no circumstances are you ever again to let it have your voice? When I was a boy, I fell hard in love. I think it was my first real love.
What was her name?
Her name was Deborah.
Oh. See, I remember mine too. Helen Morrison. Go ahead, Guy.
And, it's unthinkable to someone who is eventually is told, look, it's not your fault. I just got to find another person. It's not you.
yeah, it's me. It really is me.
Hey, of course it's
But
me.
I'm telling you that because I think it's you.
So here I am, and I'm 17. I'm living at home still, and I'm downstairs in the den, literally pounding my head against the wall because I think I'm going to die.
Mm.
I mean, I've never known that kind of pain. Now, I didn't understand that pain. No one at that age understands that pain. But the point is that the pain in that moment is because everything that I knew that was good and true about myself had been like a rug suddenly yanked out from underneath my feet. And now I'm flying through the air, and I'm going to land on my face, and I don't know what to do about my life being over. Now, what do you think happens to a boy or a young woman like that? Does that pain, is it ever reconciled? Or is the very next person I meet met with a certain skepticism? Not my skepticism, not love's skepticism, but the skepticism of a nature that was put through a terrible, painful situation and that doesn't understand it or know what to do with it. So we bring with us, Dermot, this fear of being hurt.
Yeah. Once bitten, twice shy, as they say.
That's the whole reason for those old axioms.
Yeah.
So here is the deal. I can either be the man who, over the next 30, 40, 50 years, looks at every relationship through the eyes of who and what I was that was never healed or reconciled, or I can begin to use the moments where that nature is revealed as still being present and powerful in me, and allow the light of the awareness of that moment to absolutely show me this part of myself serves nothing and no one save for the continuation of a suffering that never got resolved. So that as we gain this understanding and this willingness to see ourselves, haven't you ever marveled at how effortlessly irritated you can become over the most petty thing in the world?
About every day at least, Guy, yeah.
And so, do I want to spend the rest of my time with my partner or with the person checking me out in the grocery store or the gas station attendant or the guy behind me on the freeway? Do I want to spend the rest of my life being inflamed and then being sure that the object of my blame is the cause for my pain? Or do I want to start waking up and realizing that all the kindling, everything that needed to catch on fire and always does, I brought with me into that moment? Because if I can start seeing my partner through my own eyes, one of the parts of this book, I need to see myself the way my partner sees me. Let's think about it, listeners. When I'm upset with my partner, what does my partner see?
Just my anger. Usually in my case, it's my red face.
My partner sees what my partner feels I'm like in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
My partner sees what my partner feels me being in that moment. And what my partner feels me being in that moment is red-faced, angry, impatient, demanding, whatever it may be, no matter how seemingly logical, I might add. And when my partner feels what my state is, what does my partner do when they feel what I'm like? Look, this isn't complicated. Let's put ourselves in that place. When I feel that my partner is angry, upset, irritated, they make me crazy, and I get angry and irritated too.
Mm-hmm.
So here is my partner. They are feeling my inner state, and then they feel the same way towards me as I feel towards them. Now you have two blind human beings, each one blaming the other for their pain, instead of seeing that if they could see this is our pain, not mine, not yours, our pain. I can't feel what I do without you, and you can't feel what you do without me. Now, we love it when it's sex. We love it when it's when it's complimentary. We love it when it's uplifting and inspiring and humorous. Then we can't wait for it to be our sensation, our pleasure. But that's just one side of the equation of love. The other side is the recognition this is our pain. And I would never know myself this way if it weren't for you, and I'm not going to blame you for what I now know lives in me. I'm going to thank you for it, because otherwise that limitation will go forward in every moment of our life, and eventually it will destroy what we have. Very important point, if you can hear me, Dermot.
Yeah, no, I certainly do, guys. One of the things that I think it's the essence of your whole book, because that what you just said comes up a lot in the book. It's said many different ways. I think that's the secret of your whole book there, Guy. Guy, when we come back, I'm going to do a quick station ID. I want to talk about something I read in the book, and you've just about mentioned it here, but the feel is real, but the why is not. And the other thing that you said in there, negativity never knows what's right. Boy, that one hit me like a bad check. That was pretty profound. Guy, hold on, and you may want to take your headphones out, Guy, because I'm going to play a little bit of music. It might sound a little bit loud on your headphones. So just take them out of your ears, and we'll be right back in 30 seconds after the station ID. Welcome back, everyone. We're here at the Celtic Coach Radio Show, where science, spirituality, self-discovery, and love meet today. Yes, we're talking to internationally, that's what it says on the back here, Guy, internationally renowned spiritual teacher. I just think he's a heck of a guy. Best-selling author of The Secret of Letting Go, which is a wonderful book. We're talking to Guy today about relationship magic, waking up together. Guy, thanks very much for being on the show.
I'm glad to be with you.
Talk a little bit, Guy, about this. I was kind of a little bit confused by this, but maybe you could clarify it. The feel is real, but the why is not. What did you mean by that?
It's actually a little poem. The feel is real, but the why is a lie. The feel is real, but the why is a lie. Let's take a simple example first. All of us, at one point, were children, and I can't imagine that at some point all of us didn't have a moment in our room, maybe the first time we got to sleep by ourselves in our own room, where we heard a creaking in the closet, and we felt something move. A shadow crossed the wall, and in that split second, we all felt fear. Now, we know the feeling is real, but we can see that the why is a lie, can't we?
Mm-hmm.
That our mind made a monster out of a shadow. Yes, Dermot, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah, the feel is real, no question, I'm afraid. But the lie was something born out of imagination. So imagination created a monster, a scene, an event that when it did it, it filled me with a real set of frightening sensations, real fear. That's exactly how this mind of ours continues to work. We think we outgrow it when we're no longer afraid of a shadow running across the wall. But what about the shadow of thinking to ourselves, this person, they don't get it. They don't understand me. They're not willing to try. In that moment, the feel is very real, because in that same moment, we are looking at that person through whatever it may be that we are comparing them to in ourselves. Here's an example. I think that most of us, without knowing it anyway, believe that our partner is somewhat responsible for our happiness. Now, we may not know we have that belief, but we can see that it's challenged anytime our partner doesn't make us happy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No question.
Right? So I don't think to myself, oh, come on, I don't believe my partner is responsible for my happiness.
Yeah, until...
But the evidence is that I do believe that.
Yeah, why is the dinner late? Yeah.
I mean, all those things.
Yeah.
All right. So when my partner says something to me about my weight, says something about my diet, says something about the way I'm driving, says, I don't want to do this, the thing that you've asked them to do, any one of 100 different, very common, familiar events, we are suddenly filled with whatever the state may be, but it always begins with resistance. There's always a knee-jerk reaction followed by the expression of some kind of disapproving look on our part, if not a dark comment of some kind, or an angry one. So the point being that the feel is real, but the why is a lie. Mm. My partner is not responsible for my contentment. She can be a part of it, and gratefully so. But she's not the one who's responsible for my unhappiness. And I mean, I don't care what she does. And the reason I can say that as strongly as I do is because you want to write this down, listeners. I can't tell you the significance of this. As goes my attention, so comes my experience. As goes my attention, so comes my experience. So my wife says something, does something, and maybe it is cruel. Look, I'm not saying under any circumstances that we are to live with cruel and abusive partners. If we do, we're complicit in the codependency. But I am saying that when we love someone, just as the way they love us, they're going to step on our toe. That's because we have so many toes. We have such big feet.
Yeah, we even have toes where we don't have toes, Guy.
Yes, exactly.
And they get stepped on.
I mean, we get it. We know that. But here's the point. Where does my attention go when my partner steps on my toes?
Yeah. Goes right to my partner.
Attention goes onto what I believe is wrong with them. Mm-hmm. And so my experience of the moment is the feeling of negativity that's justified because of how my mind is explaining where they missed the mark. But the fact of the matter is, in the truest sense of it, they hit the mark in me.
Right.
And in that moment, I have to recognize if I'm willing to do it, if I really want to have a love that grows and becomes purer and truer, I have to understand, wow, my attention right now is on what's wrong with my partner and their limitation, instead of being where it needs to be which is on this limited part of myself that doesn't know what else to do when my partner makes a mistake, or when my partner points out, which is often true, something true about me that I don't want to hear. That's where my attention needs to go, because if it does, my experience will be the revelation that moment has brought to me of what was concealed in me, and that now, by the grace of God, can be released, because now it's recognized as not being valuable, as not being worthwhile protecting, but rather much better to let go of it, to die to it, because I've seen it for what it is.
Guy, when my partner steps on my emotional toe, and in order for me to bring the, as you call it, the magic mirror in the book, what question do I need to ask myself in that moment?
All right, that's a valid question.
Like, how do I have that revelation that it's not you, it's me?
Let's get this all nice and laid out so everybody can see it. Dermot's asking this question because in that moment, there is yet awakened in him something that can see that it's impossible to say something hurtful to my partner that I haven't first hurt myself with. I'm the one who is the first to experience my own bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one who first experiences that fire and that flame. But I'm not aware of that. And because I'm not aware of that, and because I have a nature presently that does not want to know that about itself, it points the finger. So Dermot's asking, given that I can't yet be awake enough in the moment to the pain, what can I do to help myself realize
It's exactly
that this isn't just a pain produced by my partner, but that she has helped me see something I didn't see in myself. So here's a little idea, one of my favorite ones. Let me set the stage for it, okay?
Go for it,
Dermot?
Guy. Yeah. I'm like the deer in the headlights guy,
I hear you.
when I'm standing there. So I'm asking this more selfish reasons, but I'm sure the listeners will get something from it too.
Look,
we all go through that.
No man, no woman wants to be someone who hurts someone.
Yeah, it's true.
Period.
Yeah, it's true.
Now, I said earlier that every moment is, in fact, a revelation. We all know the expression, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. The teacher is every moment. In one respect, it's love. Because though it's probably off topic a little bit, this moment itself is the expression of love. It is the act of creation ceaselessly unfolding, of which we are a part and which is within us. So here I am, and my wife, my husband, my child, my business partner, my employer, somebody says something to me. And my reaction is instantaneously to get heated. Now, assuming that we are tired of being in a relationship that just goes around and around because two people are blaming each other for a pain that is meant to transform them, not to torment them, we can say something like this when we feel the onset of that stress, that strain, that pain to our partner. Take a deep breath and say, wow, thanks, I didn't know that about myself. I'm going to turn the arrow of attention back to the part of me that wants to punish somebody. Why? Because I know without thinking that love does not want to punish. Love does not want to blame. That's not what love does. Were you ever astonished growing up, Dermot? I was. Coming home late as you were a kid and your mom or dad where they were irate, waiting at the door, just furious with you?
Oh, Guy, I'm astonished I grew up at all.
Yeah.
But yes, I came from quite a crazy background. So yes, Guy, I totally know what you're talking about.
The point's simple. To the parent, and we've been the parents now, it feels like our anger with our child is because we love them. Love doesn't have anger in it. Anger divides. Love unites. When we can begin to remember these things as true, then when we start to feel these blaming, untrue states of ourselves, which is the best we can do in that moment, I might add, there is something in us knowing that's true can actually look and see, oh my God, I know that I shouldn't express this anger, but please God, I can't stop myself from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Then that man or woman has a chance to understand their whole life they have been the instrument of an unconscious nature that claims to know what love is, when in truth all it knows is self-love that when challenged it blames on others. So we have a real rubber meets the road moment in every one of these relationships where suddenly I want to get angry at you because you're angry with me. That's how it goes now.
Yeah, no question.
Well, what if I actually understand the anger I'm feeling that you are emanating needs to stop with me, not be handed back to you. Someone is going to have to be the adult, the responsible party, who understands love doesn't hate. Love doesn't reject. It doesn't resent. And yet my knee-jerk reaction to those states in my partner is to just give it back to them in spades. But we have something in us that understands. All right, good God, I can feel this anger. She just said a cutting remark, this passive, aggressive comment. She may not even know she did it. And I want to make sure she knows that she hurt me. No. Let me take that moment and use it for the purpose that love brought it to our relationship for, which is to reveal in me an unconscious nature that seeks the continuity of that conflict, not its end.
Mm-hmm.
When we try to win a fight with our partner, Dermot, we're not thinking to ourselves, gee, love wants me to bury this person so they can come back and be who I want them to be because I've coerced them into that state. See, in that moment, there is a nature that just wants the continuity of that divisive, dark moment.
Mm.
To recognize that is our willingness to die to that part of ourself. That's love. That's sacrifice. That's what it means to enter into a moment, one order of man or woman, and then because of what the moment reveals in us, to die to that part of ourself that's, by the way, destroying the possibility of relationship, so that we exit the moment another order of human being, literally reborn, Dermot, by love. Literally another kind of person, because we're no longer so solidly identified with those old demands and beliefs that live in us that by the grace of God our partner revealed, and now we have a chance to choose in favor of whether or not we participate with the pain, reincarnating and reincarnating and reincarnating until the relationship's destroyed.
Right.
Or dying to that nature that's reincarnating itself so that something new can come. And by the way, when we don't return anger for anger, our partner has a chance to see their anger. They go, what's wrong? They'll actually say to you, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you fighting? You don't love me. No, I'm not going to return unkindness for unkindness because I do love you. And I'm going to bear what I have to bear in myself, not just for the sake of our relationship, but for the sake of my own soul, so that I can begin to be polished into this diamond that God has intended us to be. You're the stone. You're the polishing stone. We all know this metaphor. Now we have to actually become part of that relationship as it's unfolding.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Guy. Did you ever see the movie Gandhi?
Oh yeah.
And I'm just thinking that what that brings up to me in terms of a real life experience is, you know, where Gandhi and all his followers, they're standing there and they're doing a peaceful protest, and the British soldiers are coming up, and just one by one they're whacking them over the head, and then the next person stands forward, and this goes on for I don't know how many hours, and then the British soldiers, they start running away. They start dropping the bats and running away because they realize that why they're doing it is because something in them, and has nothing to do with the Indian people. It was a great moment in the movie, I thought.
And that's the reason it stayed with you, Dermot.
Yeah.
Because in that instant, those soldiers, for whoever it was true amongst them, were unable to continue hurting themselves.
Yeah,
that's love.
Powerful.
It's very powerful.
Yeah. Not always easy, Guy, but powerful.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Hopeful, though. I found a lot of hope in your book.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I felt hopeful, you know, where sometimes in my relationship, I feel hopeless. Like, I have no clue what the hell's going on here. But I got a lot of hope from your book, I have to say.
And that hope was born of you seeing the possibility
exactly.
of being a new man in that moment. And you could not see that possibility if it didn't already live in you. Now the task is, who am I going to be in the moment when the revelation comes? Am I going to reject it and go on justifying, expressing what I express because you're responsible for how I feel? Or am I actually going to man up, woman up, and take responsibility in the truest spiritual meaning of the word? Dermot, do you know the original meaning of the word patience? It's stunning.
No.
The original meaning of patience is to suffer myself. That's love.
Yeah, you had something in that I totally connected to that, Guy. The only way to help the one you love is to suffer changing yourself.
That's it.
That really stood out to me in the book, because we're not willing to do that in the moment.
No, but look.
I speak for myself. I'm not willing at times.
I'm a mercurial, inwardly laden, miserable individual that doesn't know that's the truth until someone brings that up out of me. And then I don't want to accept that I've brought... Listen to me, listeners. This is not judgment. This is not negativity. We're not blaming ourselves. That's as stupid as blaming someone else. We're talking about seeing. We're talking about what happens when, at last, I get it. I've been trying to change you. And when I try to change you, I press you. I pressure you. I come with these demands. And if I don't actually demand, I retreat and sulk or mope. No. I'm going to give you room to see yourself as you are by accepting seeing myself as I am and not being a complicit partner in an unconscious conflict in myself that I blame on you. And if I can give you room to see yourself, then by love you will see the need to change yourself, and I won't have to say a word. And then you'll have two human beings in a partnership that love has brought together for the purpose of uniting two seemingly different men and women, two partners, into a unified understanding where love has its full expression through their relationship.
And that's nice, Guy, because that takes the pressure off me in trying to change the person, change the relationship, all of that stuff.
You can't change another person. You can't make some. Look, the more I want you to see what's wrong with you, are you A, more open to seeing what's wrong with you, or B, close down the moment I bring it up?
Mm-hmm.
Which is it?
Close down.
Instantaneously.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
Anybody suggests we're anything less than perfect, and they've got a big problem.
As you say, Guy, they're marked.
Yeah.
I always remember that. They're marked. Doesn't matter. They're marked. They're on the book. They're done.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if I see them 20 years later. They're marked. Guy, would you do me a big favor with the 3 minutes that we still have? Would you kind of summarize? Now, I know we're going to have you back on the show because we didn't get to it today, but we'll get to it in the next show. We'll talk about the ABCs of love. We'll talk about that in the next show, and I'll let the listeners know when that is.
But before I do, listeners, if you go to relationshipmagicbook.com, one word, relationshipmagicbook.com. The book isn't officially released on Amazon until the 8th of October, but you can pre-order it. Why pre-order it? Because if you do, you will get on the spot a download of the audio book that I read. You will also get a couple other gifts that you will get immediately. So relationshipmagicbook.com. You'll get the audio book. Amazon or Barnes & Noble will send you the book on the spot. And all you have to do once you do that is just check back right through that page and send the receipt, the number along to the place in that file, whatever it is, and you'll get the audio book. Relationshipmagicbook.com. Now, summary.
What do you want people to really know from our conversation today, Guy?
The simplest answer is that with love, all things are possible. Without it, nothing real can happen. In the truest sense of it, even though we've heard these words, I don't care what's going on with you and your partner, love is the answer. But not the love of compromising, making up, not the love of trying to assure one another that we love each other, but meanwhile, you have to become something else, or the veiled threat goes through like a thread that comes and unwinds everything. No. Love is the answer, meaning in this moment, I can learn to be present enough to myself to understand that before I give you anything to taste of myself, to feel from myself, I must first taste it and feel it myself. And if I will do that, love will ensure that I don't hand you something that I don't want myself. That's our hope. That's where change takes place.
After reading your book, Guy, I did this course in Los Angeles many years ago at the University of Santa Monica, and one of the things that and after 20 grand, this is the thing that I remembered. And I remembered it again after I read your book. Healing is the application of love to all the parts inside that hurt.
That's correct.
And that, I'm not going to say that's a synopsis on your book, but for me, it's pretty close.
It begins with a willingness to see that there is no future in any condition that negativity suggests will change the future. We are so quick to fire off something that we believe is going to free us from the pain And we're blind to the fact that pain is the one telling us what to do. When we can see that, then we can begin to realize that pain belongs to the past. It has no power other than the way it gets us to embrace it and then blame others for it. And all of that can change, and that's a fact.
Mm-hmm. Guy, thank you so much for your time today. Before you go, Guy, I know that you do a weekly. I'm just wondering for the listeners out there who'd like to hear a little bit more about you or the classes that you offer. You have a weekly class that you offer online, correct?
Yes, we have a wisdom school, an online wisdom school.
Yeah,
I speak here in Southern Oregon 3 or 4 times a week, and all the talks are recorded. Some of them we stream live, and this wisdom school, which is incredibly inexpensive, the first month is less than a cup of coffee. Everyone that belongs to the wisdom school has a chance not only to see or hear these talks, but to take part in a forum twice a week with 50 to 100 other men and women where these ideas are discussed, either by long-term students of mine who moderate it, or once a month I do it myself and sit and talk for an hour and a half with anyone that wants to talk about the questions at hand. So that's at guyfinley.org if you want to learn about the Wisdom School. It's actually guyfinleynow.com, guyfinleynow.com. But I think the most important thing, and I appreciate the offer to say it, my website's guyfinley.org, but relationshipmagicbook.com. Everything that we need to know about awakening as men and women, learning about a love that doesn't turn into its opposite, is right there in that book. It's a great place to start.
Mm. Guy, a big hug to you. Lots of love to you, mate. And thanks again for just spending some time with us today.
And a hug to you.
All the best to you, my friend. We'll see you soon again.
Either late October or early November, we'll do it again.
Oh, and will you tell Barbara, thanks very much for setting this up, and I'll be in touch with her to set up the next one.
Real good, Dermot.
All right. All the best to you, mate.
You too.
Cheers, Guy.
Cheers.